You've been north of the wall.
What brought you up there?
Work.
So, there it is. The line that made us all question who the hell Bronn really is. And what the hell kind of work would he be doing beyond the wall? Alright, so there are a lot of theories out there, a lot of good videos and articles I'm sure about various theories about who Bronn could really be. Now of course we were first introduced to Bronn in Season 1 when Tyrion headed to the inn of the Crossroads on his way home from the Night's Watch, where he had visited the wall to piss off the edge of the world, and comes into the inn at the Crossroads wanting a feather bed, etc., and Bronn gladly gives up his bed for a little gold. Of course at that point Catelyn Stark came in and had Tyrion arrested for the assassination attempt on Bran's life because she was gullible enough to believe Littlefinger's bullshit story about him owning the dagger and getting it from Tyrion. So of course Bronn did accompany them to the Eyrie when she was going to take Tyrion for trial to her crazy-ass sister Lysa Arryn, and eventually he saves Tyrion's life by winning his trial by combat, and then they leave the Eyrie to head to find Tywin Lannister, and Bronn accompanies Tyrion, and essentially he's been a Lannister henchman ever since. So again, there are a lot of theories out there about who Bronn could be other than the sellsword he says he is. One of the major theories, of course, is him being a Reign of Castamere. Now, for a little history here, the Reigns of Castamere was a noble house of Westeros, the actual Reigns from Castamere, that Tywin Lannister wiped off the map. Of course, it became a big thing. They sang a song about it and wrote the Reigns of Castamere. So when you hear that song, especially at a wedding, you know some bad shit's about to go down. There's also theories that Bronn could be a Night's Watch member that's gone rogue or AWOL. And that's certainly a possibility, but I think that was shot down in the very same scene where we were introduced to Bronn, because Yoren came in with Tyrion, of course, from the wall, and Yoren has been in the Night's Watch for over 30 years as a recruiter, so he would know somebody Bronn's age if he had been at the Night's Watch. Perhaps he might not have known his name, but I think he would have probably known who he was. Now, it's certainly possible he could have been in a different castle or something like that, but I think Yoren, as a recruiter to the Night's Watch, would have pretty much known anybody that came in, no matter what castle they were assigned to. At some point, they all come to Castle Black, and as we saw in the show itself, they get assigned out from there to the various castles they may go man. So I think it's unlikely that Bronn is a Night's Watch member gone AWOL. There are some hints that possibly Bronn is just from across the Narrow Sea, and possibly from Bravo specifically, because in the scene with Tyrion and Shae in the tent when they play their games, where we heard he was north of the wall in the first place, he does tell Tyrion and Shae he could show them a Braavosi knife game. So that's certainly a possibility and kind of fits the idea that he's just a well-traveled sellsword. And of course another theory is that he could possibly just be an actual wildling. He was born there and that's what he meant by work, because if you live beyond the wall, hell, it's work just to survive. So I think it's a big possibility that Bronn is simply a sellsword as he says he is, and as a matter of fact, in an interview with George R. R. Martin himself many years ago, someone asked him specifically about Bronn, and he did respond that he essentially just needed a character for Tyrion to talk to so he could get his perspective, and that character became Bronn, and he just kind of grew beyond what he expected him to be in the first place. So I think the odds are that Bronn is in fact just a sellsword, regardless of where he's actually from, where he was born. We never hear about his last name, so he could be from Essos. It's certainly a possibility he was a wildling and became a sellsword. That would explain why he's so hard and tough and he's a great fighter, but he don't know a lot about Westerosi politics. Maybe he just got tired of the cold and scaled the wall with climbing spikes like they have before in the show, and came over and kind of blended into society and became a sellsword. And of course he would use the only real skill he had, fighting, which he's very good at. And I think wildlings are pretty damn good fighters, because the wildlings before Mance Rayder were always fighting amongst themselves, and of course you have to fight just to survive beyond the wall. But that still begs the question, if he wasn't a wildling, what was he doing beyond the wall for work, no matter where he came from? But I think we may have a little bit of evidence from the show itself that he is actually just a sellsword, but he was actually sent beyond the wall for a particular task.
Castle Black.
Trouble with the wildlings.
That's why they're called wildlings.
Somewhat less wild these days. Seems they've stopped killing each other and started following this king beyond the wall.
So in this clip here, we hear Varys telling the small council about the king beyond the wall, Mance Rayder. Now, of course, Varys is the master of whispers. He is the spider. He has spies all over the place, little birds that whisper in his ear, so he knows when everybody's taking a shit. But the point being here that he would not have little birds beyond the wall or even in the Night's Watch. Sure, it's possible he has informants in the Night's Watch, but not little mute kids that could not go beyond the wall and survive. So I think it's very possible, because of this information that he gives Cersei and the council, that at some point Varys simply hired a group of sellswords, probably a small group, to get some intel on the wildlings in this new king beyond the wall known as Mance Rayder, because Varys and Illyrio, for that matter, from the very beginning of this story, show, and books, wanted a Targaryen restoration. So I think with Varys gathering all this information, it would be in his best interest, if he hears rumors about a new king beyond the wall, to find out what's going on, to see if it's any real threat to Dany coming over to Westeros and taking over the Iron Throne in their plot to bring a Targaryen back to power. So I think this is the most likely scenario. I don't think that Bronn is anybody else but a sellsword who might have been sent beyond the wall, perhaps by Varys, to gain some intel. And of course, if this is the case, it doesn't mean that Bronn ever actually met Varys. He could have simply met somebody who was in charge of Bronn if he was a member of a sellsword company. Perhaps it was just a small group of mercenaries, and that way he got the job done, but he never actually met all the members that went beyond the wall, which may have included Bronn. And of course, that doesn't mean he was sent there to actually kill Mance Rayder, maybe just to gather some intel to see what needed to be done to make sure it didn't impede his and Illyrio's plans to bring Dany across the Narrow Sea and put a Targaryen back on the Iron Throne. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Is Bronn just a mercenary, or is he someone bigger in our story as far as a bigger role to play? In this case, I personally think he's just who he says he is. He is a sellsword. Not everyone in our story has to be a secret Targaryen, or Hail Azor Ahai for that matter. So I think Bronn is exactly who he says he is. He's just a damn good sellsword that attached himself to the Lannisters because they're a damn good source of gold, and of course a Lannister always pays their debts. So let me know what you think, and as usual, thank you for all the support, especially to you guys on Patreon, and a huge shout out to my executive Patreon SmokeScreen producers, Griffin, Lala, Kissa, Powell, Marylin, Bentley, JoAnna, Anonymous, Doc Holliday, Goska, HoonJive, Horton, Erin, Habig, John, Carey, Anastasia, Jason Landers, DTizSmith, MJW, Carole Brown, D Brown, and Mel Hoffman. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the support, and to everyone on Patreon, you guys keep this channel alive during the long night. Also, be sure to subscribe to get everything, and be sure to click that notification bell so you're notified when I drop a new video. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Now the rains we pour.